Last night I was reading Romans 4. Paul makes an argument there that completely stunned me. He goes back to the story of Abraham, the man every Jew looked to as the ultimate example of obedience, faith, and covenant. And Paul asks a question so sharp and so precise that it cuts through every works-based system ever invented. He says, "How then was it counted to him? Was it before or after he was circumcised?" And then he answers, "It was not after, but before." That single truth changes everything. Paul is saying, go back and check the timeline. When did God declare Abraham righteous? Was it after Abraham obeyed? Was it after he was circumcised? Was it after he performed some religious act? No. It was before, long before, years before. Abraham was justified while he was still uncircumcised. He was justified before he had done anything that could be counted as a work of obedience. That means justification cannot possibly depend on works. If the very first man described as being justified was justified before any work was performed, then works cannot be the basis of salvation. This is why Paul brings it up. It's a theological hammer blow. He destroys every system that tries to mix human effort with divine grace. Let me put it in simple terms. If someone says, salvation comes after you obey, Paul says, really? Then explain Abraham, because he was saved before he obeyed. If someone says, salvation depends on rituals, Paul says, explain Abraham, because the ritual came years later. If someone says God accepts you after you do your part, Paul says, explain Abraham because God accepted him when he had done nothing at all. Paul uses Abraham as the litmus test because Abraham is the one example nobody can wiggle around. If Abraham was justified before any work, then salvation is not the result of human action. It never was. It never will be. Now here is where the misunderstanding comes. People read James saying, faith without works is dead. But James and Paul are addressing two different problems. Paul is confronting the lie that works save us. James is confronting the lie that a person can have true faith while producing nothing. Paul is battling self-righteousness. James is battling hypocrisy. It's like this. If a tree is truly alive, it will eventually bear fruit. The fruit does not make the tree alive. The life inside the tree produces the fruit. Faith is the life. Works are the fruit. You can't reverse the order. You can't say fruit gives life. Fruit proves life. So when someone says, but James says faith without works is dead, the answer is, exactly. And what does a dead thing need? It needs life, not more works. A dead tree can be covered in artificial fruit and still be dead. A dead faith can be covered with rituals and ceremonies and works and still be dead. That's James's whole point. He isn't saying, do works to get justified. He's saying, if you're truly justified, works will naturally flow. Let me give another logical example. Imagine a father and a child. The father loves the child because the child belongs to him. The child's obedience doesn't create the relationship. It flows from it. When the child disobeys, he is disciplined, not disowned. Why? Because the relationship is rooted in identity, not performance. In the same way, Abraham's obedience, his circumcision, his actions, his walk, came after God declared him righteous. The obedience proved the relationship. It didn't create it. Or think of marriage. The vows create the covenant. Wearing the ring is the sign of that covenant. The ring doesn't make you married. It shows that you already are. Circumcision for Abraham was simply the ring. The covenant came first. So when you return to Romans 4 and look at the order, faith first, righteousness first, works afterward, it becomes painfully clear. Salvation is by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone. And works are the evidence of that salvation, not the cause of it. They are the fruit, not the root. And once you see that, oh boy, it's impossible to unsee it. Paul wasn't giving theology for scholars. He was giving truth that frees the soul. Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness, full stop. Everything else, the obedience, the circumcision, the works, flowed from the faith that was already alive. That is the gospel in its purest form.